My name is Rory Houlihan. I ran for U.S. Senate last spring, 2016, to stop the ticking time bomb so I could put our on track for a bright new day instead of all things ending. Well, I lost the election and not running, but the ticking time bombs are still here, if not more so. Let me educate you on the ticking time bombs and give you the rest of the story. Part 1E. How did the terms conservative and liberal come about? President Jackson establishes the activist president and the activist government. The next person who had an impact on the concept of what is meant to be a liberal is President Andrew Jackson. President Andrew Jackson established the activist president and the activist government. With President Jackson, we had the start of modern federal government. President Jackson's fight with the Second United States Bank established the need and the principle that our U.S. federal government had to be more powerful than any private concentration of wealth for our country's democracy to be safe. Jackson felt that concentration of wealth was inconsistent with the character of American democracy. To permit a privately owned bank like the Philadelphia Bank to control the currency and credit of our nation ran against his principles. Jackson ran a policy to deny the recharter of the Philadelphia private bank for the safety and security of our American democracy. President Andrew Jackson believed that too big to fail is too big to have. Jacksonian policy, something that today should be listening to. If you are calling a bank too big to fail, someone has to start thinking that this bank is just too big to have for U.S. security reasons. Understand, the real heroes in our last 2008 to 2009 recession were the community banks, like Marshall and Ilsley. Marshall and Ilsley refused to put folks into foreclosure like 4 times during this last recession. One of the ways you keep folks in their homes, farms, and businesses is to slow down the foreclosure process to give folks time to heal. Shouldn't we be putting Marshall and Ilsley folks over our financial system instead of Goldman Sachs, Steve Mnuchin, Indie Bank, One West, who, as a CEO, carried out some 36,000 foreclosures by 2014 and sped up the foreclosure process to get more than $1 billion from the FDIC, Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. Steve Mnuchin devastated communities across the West, like Oakland, California, Phoenix, Arizona, Las Vegas, Nevada, with his fast-track foreclosure policy. Goldman Sachs and other big banks brought our banking system to its knees. Many of our biggest banks, instead of slowing down the foreclosure process to save folks from losing everything they worked for, instead fast-tracked foreclosures so they could collect more money from the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. President Trump put Steve Mnuchin over our banking system. There are killers and murderers. Okay, killers care, murderers don't. 36,000 foreclosures in a few years. That's kind of like pointing to a murderer. And Marshall and Ilsley refusing to put people in foreclosure 4 times kind of points to a killer. Actions speak louder than words. Trump has put the gators over American people. Are you thinking that is dumb? And President Andrew Jackson believed in protecting the humble members of society, like Jackson actually did through regulation and policy. Government's role is to protect the humble members of society, you and I. You have a good and blessed day. Bye.